Hi, Assalamualaikum, and a very good morning to all. Alright, I am teacher Shuhada. Today I will talk about sensory registration problem, or we can call it as SRP. Okay, so the example of the child that's seeking more proprioceptive input is they may look like active resistant to muscles. The second is deep touch pressure, for example, like joint compression. They need more input. Okay, and then the third one is traction. For example, instead of walking, they like stomping, throwing object forcefully, and etc. Okay, so for the next slide, I will talk about the over responsiveness, or it's called as hyper responsivity or sensory defensiveness. Okay, um, Budget said that over-responsiveness is sensory modulation disorders involving multisensory system. So this kind of over-responsiveness, they are overreaction with touch, movement, sounds, odors, and taste, or any kind that will bring to create discomfort, avoidance, distractibility, and anxiety. So this child will oversensitive even the little stimuli that they receive. All right, under the over-responsiveness, we have one that we call as tactile defensiveness. I will explain more about this after this slide. Okay, as we know that tactile is related with the sense of touch. So usually the kids or the child always have the sensitive with the something they must touch. Okay, for example, the texture of clothing, grass or sand, and it depends the others. So this kid always shows their sensitivity, and then what happens is that they will feel anxiety, distractibility, restlessness, anger, throwing a tantrum, aggression, fear, and emotional. Okay, a part of tactile defensiveness, the child also will have a problem with the gravitational insecurity. So I will explain more about this after the next slide. Okay. Um, the children or kids that have gravitational insecurity, usually they are over responsiveness to vestibular sensations. They will insecure with the changes in their head positions and movement, and usually they are fear of height. For example, like before this, I already attend two students, which is Wei Yong and Amar Haziq. Both of them are very afraid with bolster and then wall climbing. So it shows that they are over responsiveness with the vestibular sensations, and they are very afraid with swinging, uh, and it shows they are over responsiveness with this particular sensation. Okay, for the next slide, I will talk about sensory discrimination and perception problems. So usually this child, they often have hard time to perceiving some information. The discrimination is the brain's ability to interpret information and disregard irrelevant information. So sometimes they are like jumbles. Their brain like jumbles or confused with environmental stimuli. Okay, for this slide, I will talk about tactile discrimination and perception problems, and also proprioception problem. So usually, for the child that suffers from tactile discrimination disorder, they are not able to process things that they touch, and they must be able to see it. Okay, for example, the common sign for this side is always unaware of being touched, unable to identify objects through touch, or unable to describe a texture via touching. So they always suffer with fine motor skills, and they usually always associate with visual perception. Okay, for the child that have proprioception problem, they always appear as clumsy, distracted, and awkward, rely on visual cues, too much or too little force in writing, clapping, marching, typing, breaking toys, bumping to each other's, misjudging personal space, and etc. So this child always have this, for the child have proprioception problem or proprioception discrimination problem, they always have this characteristic. Okay, for the next problem, which is visual perception problem. So it's commonly seen in children with sensory integrative disorder. So this child always shows the sign like difficulty in distinguishing between colors, difficulty in distinguishing between shapes, difficult in identify objects that are slightly hidden, poor depth perception, difficulty in knowing left from right, difficulty distinguishing similar letters like PQ, GB, and D, lining up numbers in a math problem. So these children who suffers from this have a hard time for reading emotions and recognizing patterns and letters. So SID treatment may be suitable for these children who shows along with poor tactile practice. But if not, use treatment approach like visual perception training, compensatory strategies, or skill training in specific activities is needed for help these children that have this visual perception problem. Alright, so we move to the other perceptual problem, which is number one is vestibular proprioceptive problems. So, as we know that vestibular is related with the system in our inner ear, and then it's related with balancing and gravitational awareness. Whereas proprioceptive is related with movement, which is it related with muscles, tendon, ligaments, and joints. So this child they have combo problem, and they always shows they are poor in equilibrium, poor postural stability, tendency to slouching, and difficulty in keeping it upright. And then the next problem is praxis problem. Okay, for practice problem, we also known as planning and sequencing. So this problem is actually is related with the children that must have the ability to conceptualize, plan, and execute, but they have problem in that one. Okay, so the simple one that we can say is they must know. Okay, they must know what they want to do and figuring out how they want to do it, and then they carrying out what they want to do. So this practice is important. This planning and sequencing skills is important because it's enable a child to perform many everyday tasks such as walking, running, playing, and others. Okay, so it's also required for their self-care tasks such as dressing, eating, and it gives impact of this child life, of course. So if they had poor planning and sequencing, they will feel hard for them to adapt with situation, and it hard for them to struggle. It hard for them to adapt with the daily tasks like others. So if this child is have this problem, so we should know how to treat them, and of course with the correct treatment. Okay, so the conclusion or sum up from this topic is that I realized that it is important to do the intervention early so we can detect the problems early and we can help the children also more early. And then the second one is therapists need to understand the problem of the child because different child, different problem, different approach. Because child is some child with this problem always they have their own uniqueness. So of course, they need a uniqueness approach to help them. So a suitable treatment may help the child show a good progress, yes, and that a consistent treatment, a suitable treatment will make the child shows a good progressive. and need more practice treatment from sensory diet and sensory circuit. Yes, because this one it help a lot, especially for their sensory. And then of course, the last one is parent consent and attention always be allowed, because if they have this awareness, of course, their child may have a good progression after this. So that's all from me. Thank you.